Hello, Cardstack community. I am Chrissy, the founding director of the Cardstack project, coming to you from the land of the Web3. Today, we are joined by Joe Clelland, who is the CEO of Centric, to talk to us about his protocol and his applications connections to make payments and stablecoins and dual token something that is a vernacular everybody uses every day. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you.
Can you introduce yourself and your project a little bit about what brought you to this Web3 crypto world, and what is your focus right now within bringing the Centric project to the mass market?
Sure. Thank you, Chris. I'm glad to be here today. I started out like a lot of people in this space as an investor. And I was investing in Bitcoin and a number of other tokens and coins. And I came across Centric Protocol and was fascinated by it first because it was one of a few projects that are dual token protocols. They had two
Hmm.
tokens. But the thing that fascinated me was that the second token actually yields more of the traded token every single hour. And so I
Mm.
started accumulating. And after a number of months or so, I actually started connecting with the leadership team at Centric. And we had a number of conversations, and they mentioned that they were looking for a CEO. And because I already believed in the project and was an investor, plus I came from backgrounds of traditional finance and education, they thought it would be a good fit. Because one of the things Centric is really striving to do in this Web3 era is educate people on all the trends, everything that's happening,
Mm.
not just talking about our project, but also kind of helping people. And I think you probably see this every day as well, Chris, that I meet people all the time that are super intelligent and they
Hmm.
just don't understand what's going on. I mean, even when we
Yeah.
drop things like Web3, they're like, what's that?
Yeah, and they might learn about Web3 through one of the tentacles, where there's like a DAO they joined because of a chat room or
For
an
sure.
NFT they bought, or like they heard about some tokens or whatever it might be, or even services, custodial services that's
Right.
adjacent to crypto. And once they get in, they ask the rest of the question. For every one thing you learn, there's 10 questions to ask.
That's
And then the
so
question
true.
keeps supplying. And so, and the learning resources, if you were to, let's say, God forbid, Google the words, are nonsensical. The search
That's
results on
true.
crypto keywords are not
It's
good.
it's ridiculous. You're right.
Yeah, so I completely agree that when you are trying to not only build a product and explain what you do, and then we are in the wallet space, we have to explain with the wallet what can you do with it, and that's and again 10 questions after you answer the first question, how to
Exactly.
create your account.
I think that's funny. It's amazing. I've had people come to me or come to the team and they've said, "Yeah, I tried to send Tether to my native Centric wallet, or I tried to send some
Right,
Bitcoin." I'm like, "Oh no, I hope you didn't. Hope you didn't send too much because our wallet is only set up for Centric."
right. That
And
yeah.
but it's a fascinating world we're in for sure.
Absolutely. You mentioned that you have this dual token model, and there's many other project that has different types of dual token. For example, MakerDAO has a governance token MKR, and then has a stable coin called DAI. And there are other
Mhm.
organizations that has two different tokens. One is like a fee burn token for redeeming goods and services. Another one is more of a staking token for producing those things, like Internet Computers or Divinity Foundation. Those are very different dual token models.
Very different.
You have a specific one with the CNS and CNR. I'll let you describe it. Can you describe to me the dual token model and what fascinated you about it when you were looking at it, and what is the mechanism that it enables in terms of incentive alignment and the building of an ecosystem?
Right. I'd say I kind of started with kind of where you did, where looking at other dual token projects and trying to find out what was the difference here, what's the focus, what are they trying to build here. And one of the things that's unique, I think, about Centric Protocol is that it doesn't include a traditional stablecoin or an asset backed
Mm,
token. Whereas a lot of these projects do, they've got a stable in the background, and then they have another token that does something. Maybe it's a speculative token, maybe it's integrated for payments, maybe it's a
hmm.
utility token or a security token or something like that.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think really drew me to the project initially was the fact that the main token was designed to be deflationary. It was issued at the beginning of 2020 with a billion units, and that there were never going to be any more of this token. And I don't know about you, Chris, but I know when I'm accumulating, I always like to have some deflationary cryptocurrencies in the mix
Mm-hmm.
because they're not making any more of those. And the
Mm-hmm.
same thing is true of Centric Protocol. And the other thing that I would probably say that differentiates it from some of the other dual token models is that we believe we built what's called a synthetic stable, which is different. And basically, the second token, the token that's traded on exchanges, is valued by the market. It's programmed to be a dollar, but
Mm-hmm.
it's valued by the market. And as the market values the traded token, the value of the in-network token, the CNR we were mentioning earlier, it continues to get closer and closer to its true value in the network.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a nice relationship between the two tokens because unlike a lot of asset based tokens that are backed by the dollar or other cryptocurrencies, the network is really capitalized by itself at Centric.
Mm-hmm.
And as people find out about it, as they decide, you know what, I'm gonna hold some Centric, or I'm gonna transact in Centric, as more protocols connect with our protocol and the ecosystem develops, we believe we're going to get closer and closer to that dollar value for
Mm-hmm.
even for CNS.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think the difference, I think, for most people when they're looking at stable coins or stable coin like is either it's like a USDT, a Tether, or a USDC coin from Circle, which is asset backed, and then
Hmm.
there are these new class of protocol using smart contract algorithm incentive structure to do that. So how do you
Exactly.
think that from like like the newer players that are pretty big, like a I think UST from Terra has
Hmm.
elements of this, maybe not
Yeah, I
exactly the
looked at
same.
Terra. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there are
Yeah.
also protocol like Phase and Frax. How does that, those ecosystem kind of inform or align like you're thinking about, if you want to have a currency that can be used for payments? Because I think that's one of the area that's most excitement, which is, why are we creating all these liquidity and supplies? Because you can use this to do transaction in a more commerce way, more connected to digital lives of people. How do you see these various kind of algorithmic, maybe not entirely, a lot of them do have some sort of value backing them, that
Hmm.
is like assets, and Terra has bought some Bitcoin to back as well as
Yeah, I noticed
Luna.
that as well. And
So what's
even
your view
yeah.
of this kind of blurring or this kind of a symbiosis between asset backing and state algorithmic stabilization?
For sure. No, I guess what I would say with regard to that is that there are mechanisms in place to stabilize the network. And right now we've got a lot of speculation on our traded token, but there's also a fixed element with the in-network token.
Mm,
And it basically what happens is, I mean, I've looked at the charts out to like 2029. I mean, but we've got it calculated all the way out there to what the price of Centric Rise is going to be out that point in the future. Of course, our team gets together and they look and they forecast every month before hard coding it to the blockchain. But I think having a fixed pattern in the network, I think basically builds a lot of goodwill amongst the
mm-hmm,
community. And they look at the traded token and think, okay, well, the traded token is where it is right now, and it's not going anywhere, or maybe it is going somewhere, but it's programmed to be a dollar. It's a dollar in the protocol, and I know that Centric Rise CNR is yielding more of this traded token every hour.
mm-hmm,
And I mean, do we have other assets in the background? Yes, but the primary assets of the network are Centric. I
mm-hmm,
mean, I mean, 20% of the global supply of Centric tokens is sitting in foundation
mm-hmm.
for the adoption of Centric as a global borderless currency. And
Yep.
there are a lot of projects that kind of have that in their DNA,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they want to be transactional. They have a desire to maybe be like Bitcoin and be a reserve currency. And there are a number of projects that I think are getting close. I think that I think over time we're gonna see exactly what's supposed to happen in the network happen.
Mm-hmm,
The nice thing is that I've seen it since being an investor and a little over a year as CEO, that the protocol just works exactly as designed and deployed every single hour.
Yeah, and it's
and
looking at
it,
the protocol as
yeah,
something that is it's reliable. It does what it does, and obviously adoption. One of the things we always say about like Web
correct.
three is that the people who are in Web three right now is like the early people who show up to a concert before the bands and maybe some
Right,
roadies setting
for
up things.
sure.
Is really early. Like the mass is not coming, but we do expect people to show up, and when they show up they're not going to be necessarily looking to do the same thing that that people are doing. And one of the prediction is that NFT, especially NFT as a type of pure digital commerce, is suggesting to people what regular digital or online commerce would do. And one of the probably biggest opportunity that most people in Web3 looking forward sees, but some of the people who are just inside DeFi looking with the thing don't see, is the role of online commerce. I know you guys have a big vision about using Centric as a facilitator for the migration of online commerce being settled using only fiat, but one that can also tap into these kind of new types of assets and currency. Can you tell us a
Mhm.
little bit about your perspective of online commerce intersection with the Web3 underlying DeFi protocols?
Sure. And I'd probably start back at BitPay. I mean, BitPay was one of the earliest payment gateways where, large companies like Amazon and Microsoft, hotels.com, they were thinking to themselves, sure, we'll attract those crypto paying customers, but do we want to hold crypto on our books? No. We can hold it on our balance sheet? No, not at this time. But I think that the payment networks have really grown a lot since then. And I mean, one of the things that we've seen, because it'll be a year in July this year since we've been integrated with the payment gateways, is depending on the payment gateway, depending on how it's configured, businesses can decide, hey, I want to go ahead and take the crypto. And I'll decide if I want to
Mm-hmm.
trade out of it or not, if I want to hold it, or I can get paid out in fiat wherever I'm based, my local currency. I want to attract those crypto paying customers. Like you said, Chris, we're very early in the space. I mean, I talked with somebody earlier today. He's a gentleman who he's a developer for a fintech company,
Mm-hmm.
and they're developing a multi token wallet, and we're thinking about maybe integrating with them and doing some education with them. But it was amazing. I was talking with him. He's in our space, and a lot of this is still even very new for him.
Right. Yeah.
And it amazes me that there's a large curve. There's a growth curve or a learning curve, if you will, in this space. And the one thing I always tell people is I say, just be patient, spend some time learning. There's not a lot of great resources out there, but there are resources. Hit a Netflix or an Amazon video now and again about Bitcoin and crypto and where blockchain is headed, and
Yeah.
learn as much as you can about Web3. One of the things I encourage people to do is join the Web3 conversation.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got a group of people in your area that are talking about crypto or NFTs or the metaverse, what have you, is get in the conversation. Because there are always little things that we can glean from one another, because nobody's an island and nobody knows everything.
Yeah,
But
and then the
but
nice thing
but
about
yeah,
the nice thing about the Web three is that it's a kind of shared membership across micro
right,
communities. Like Web two,
exactly.
like you
I
can
like that.
go into
Yes,
you can go to NFT people through the Web three kind of keywords. You'll meet someone who is really into OpenSea type of stuff, and they can teach you techniques. And we are seeing glimpses of like what commerce will look like. And then you might go to someone who's purely in community management, just vibing and getting they're forming the future social fabric of how cooperatives, organized using blockchain technology, can replace corporations and associations, right?
yeah.
So the
It's
Web3 is
fascinating.
really great umbrella a word to bring these intersecting communities together. So I think
I agree. I
lots to
agree.
learn from each other.
Definitely, Chris. I one of my colleagues. He owns the patent on a couple of pieces of technology, and he's developing
Mm,
It's basically like a virtual container system
mm,
for whereas in Web 2, a lot of big tech were transacting in our data, and
right.
we and that's fine. I mean, we agreed to use their platforms, but in Web 3, there's ways for, like you said, for us all to share in this evolution together, and
Hmm.
companies like his are finding ways to truly share
Right.
these trends, and
Hmm.
protect our intellectual property,
Right.
and protect our preferences.
Yeah, and then it
But
is
it's
nice to
fascinating.
think of like things that like you hold dear, like your access to your asset is in your wallet. But right now it's very hard for me to give you something in a wallet unless it's an NFT or token. So there's this
Correct.
opportunity to think about how do you like what is the zip file or PDF? Like how do you like combine these things and trade them? And that's very early still.
Yeah, I
it's still
agree.
very hard to make I want to trade a set for NFT with your set. Those are still concept that doesn't have tools for,
That's
even though
true.
it's very intuitive, right?
Right, right, right. Just give me your address. I'll send it to you.
Right.
I'll make sure
One
I've
at a
got the right
time.
chain enabled.
I hope so, right? Because all the chain address are the same, and
Yeah.
where's the Centric deploy? Is it a
We're on the
protocol?
Binance Smart Chain.
Right.
Yeah, we started because Card is still on Ethereum.
We are on Ethereum and we are also on Gnosis chain.
Oh,
So we have
okay,
a bridge.
excellent,
So
excellent.
we make use of a lot of the contract wallet features. So I know
Got it
people don't really know much about smart contract wallet unless you have a significant thing to protect.
for
The
sure.
only people's experience with it is if they, for example, use Argent wallet, which is a smart contract wallet. We saw a great opportunity to use Gnosis technology, Gnosis Safe specifically. So we deploy on the NextDAI chain, which then got kind of incorporated through a voting from the GNO to be part of the Gnosis network. So
That makes
we're a
sense.
smart contract wallet that
Right.
works on basically all the EVM compatible chain, soon, but we are currently focused on perfecting the end-to-end experience on Gnosis chain.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's so funny because everything that we do at Centric is about the user experience.
Right.
It's like, okay, it's either going to be less in gas fees or it's going to be easier for people to use. We initially started as a smart contract on Ethereum, and
Mm-hmm.
then we moved to Tron. We were on Tron for about 2 years or so.
Really?
And
Yeah.
reason we were on Tron is because it was fast. It was kind of no nonsense. But we ended
Mm-hmm.
up moving to the Binance Smart Chain just because there's more opportunity there. It's still got the
Right.
speed and the costs. I mean, the costs fluctuate, but it just provides a good user experience. And one of the things that we've noticed is since moving to the BSC that we've made a lot of really good contacts.
Mm-hmm.
We started integrating with other projects really quickly. Getting connected with projects that have yield farms and things of that
Mm-hmm.
nature. And then like we were talking before we hopped on about our latest partner that has a DApp for staking Centric Rise,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Yeah.
pretty cool.
So I think what's really interesting is that while there are a lot of smart contract that's being shared code-wise, there are these unique community that is almost like cities, right?
I
You
agree.
make your house out of the same 2x4 from Home Depot and the same like kitchen appliances from the same places, but there are cultures and kind of like a local community connection on each of these chain. They're almost like little satellite cities. Not to say that Ethereum is like the center of the universe. It's more like the first city, right? Rome or Manhattan, depends on how you look at it.
For
But it's
sure.
really great to see this kind of kind of new culture in different chains with different value system
Yeah, it's
emerge.
interesting. Yeah, you brought up OpenSea earlier, and it's the biggest NFT platform, but even the BSC has Air NFTs.
Hmm.
We launched an NFT collaborative campaign last year on it, and it's interesting because the one thing I've noticed is with every step forward, I still see how far the whole ecosystem has to go, and then not just the centric ecosystem, but the whole ecosystem
Yeah, I
of,
think
of
user
apps and
experience is
dApps.
one of them. The
Hmm.
jargons, like we can certainly have a chat on a podcast where we can both say 10 words in 2 sentences, and
Right.
every single word, every other word is a jargon. So we got to be very careful to make sure that people who are interested in Web3 for this cooperative ownership
Hmm.
model can kind of get through the jargon and say, hey, we're building technology that
Right.
is ownable by you, that you can control your own asset. And that I think is still being clouded a little bit by either the technical language or just the type of activity that, everybody don't speculate. Like it's not a
Right.
normal day-to-day activity for people who buy Whole Foods, groceries and Costco in bulk, right? And that's about as much
Right.
speculating on whether you're going to eat all of 24 boxes of macaroni and
Before it
cheese.
goes bad.
Right. That is the most. That's the only speculation people do on a day-to-day basis. So
That's
so
true.
to me, is that the education is super important. What do you
Right.
think is the
Yeah.
missing part in kind of educating people about Web3, that this is a place for them? What is missing in what we're doing as an industry or in your efforts on bridging that?
For sure. And Chris, I would actually echo what you were saying before about a shared community. It's a large global shared community. And I think the word inclusion has its place
Mm,
here.
inclusion, yeah.
The Like you said, a lot of the terminology or the jargon, the cypherpunk slang, if you will,
Mm,
a lot of times it's lost on some people, even people that are in the space. Like I mentioned a gentleman earlier from a fintech company, and I was on with him for maybe a half hour or so, and there were some things that I was saying, and I'm like, "You're familiar with that?" And he was doing this,
right,
and but it's good because if people in the industry are still missing each other with regard to communication, then we need to be even more inclusive, and that
right.
comes through the educational piece. Is I think just slowing things down and saying, you know what, we all know something about what's happening here. We all know that we're not in Web 2 anymore. It's not Web 2 anymore, Toto.
Right, right.
We've left Kansas. Now
Yes.
we're in
Web
Web
2 is
three.
Kansas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. That's right.
We're in Oregon Trail, right?
That's
Like, you know,
right.
the
Yeah,
one.
we're in Oz now in Web
Yeah, yeah,
three,
yeah.
and it's fascinating to me that some people still think they've missed it because
Mm,
Bitcoin is what Bitcoin is. And the one thing I just try to explain to people is I still meet people almost every week that think they have to buy a full Bitcoin to get some Bitcoin.
mm, mm,
And I get a chance to talk about fungibility and fractionalization and just you can buy a few satoshis.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Watch, I'll buy $5 worth right here at the table, or whatever, just to kind of like help people relax. Because I
mm-hmm,
think what a lot of people want to do is they want to dip their toe in the water just to learn.
mm-hmm. So I think one of the interesting thing about Bitcoin is that people don't really understand that, like, you know, there are little bits of Bitcoins called Satoshis or
Yeah,
Sats. People stack Sats. And that's
right,
a
little
very kind of
bits.
foreign concept to them. So there's this company called Lolly that issue a credit card that based on what you spend on the credit card, you get some sats, the same way you would get airline points or credit card points or airline miles. So I thought that was really clever, right? You know,
I think
this
so
is,
too.
so it's a way to
Rewards.
teach people that, you know, you can accumulate or stack this Bitcoin by just doing what you do. And that type of work of using analogy that people know in their Web 2 or even Web 1 or just regular lives and explaining the concepts of it. Now, obviously, once you know what a Bitcoin is, you learn about smart contracts, there's a lot more down the rabbit hole. But as a first step to understand that, you know, you can have a fraction of Bitcoin, these techniques are quite interesting and useful. What have you seen in your kind of like journey as a crypto user, but also as an educator, of like analogy that like let give people the aha moment for them to get certain concept that may be esoteric within DeFi and otherwise
For
Web3?
sure. I hate to get to gaming or casinos, but
Right.
casinos and gaming have been around a long time, a lot
Yes.
longer than crypto. And one of our very first partners was an online casino.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, before I was even in crypto, I had a gentleman, a friend of my network. He's actually a professional drummer,
Mm.
and part of his retirement plan is playing hearts. He plays hearts online,
Mm.
and
Wow.
he makes between 5 and 10 grand a month playing cards, and he's been doing that for many years. And so
Yeah.
for people that are into casinos, into gaming, don't get me started on all the gamified platforms that are out there, but just gaming in general,
Right.
they understand what it means to accumulate rewards or
Right.
to
Right.
win. And I
Mm-hmm.
think when you can kind of tap into people's desire to win, they want to acquire whatever the game has to provide for them. And
Right.
I think that's why I think where we're going to see a lot of growth, Chris, is in the play to earn games.
Play to earn. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the play to earn platforms are going to be very popular.
Right.
I mean, they're popular now for people that are into that, but I think it's going to be kind of an entry point for a lot of people.
Hmm. And I think it goes without saying that I think the young generation that grew up with video games as their main expression, it's really natural to think
For
of
sure.
accumulation of digital swags, right?
Yeah, there
Like
you
who,
go. That's a good way
yeah,
to put it.
that's what you do. I mean, not all of them have monetary value. Some of them do, and maybe the monetary value is less important in some cases. But you know, in a true gaming sense, you know, a lot of it is like kind of social status and
Sure,
reputation, right?
exactly.
Having
It's
done
credit, it's
something on
cred,
YouTube,
social
yeah.
cred. for
Yeah.
sure,
So, but it,
100%.
it is a type of like earning your way through this this world. So I completely agree with you. I think gaming is leading the way, and the culture that exists already is very compatible with it as people coming into of age. It sometimes is surprising how young crypto really is as as a
I agree.
field.
Hmm.
And obviously building tools and building infrastructure, laying out regular structure, creating business strategies and consumer adoption strategy requires experience of dealing with like the world as it exists today. But the users, the players, the people in the midst of it and being a part of the community, it is a community that is very much ready to translate what the accomplishment, the various versions of the gaming universe they're in
I
to the
agree.
crypto universe. Some has
It's
been
true.
very successful, by the way.
No, that's true. I agree.
Yeah. So one thing that when we were talking about this idea that there are multiple blockchains and there are different types of community, do you think that Web3 will come together? Do you think that protocol needs to be deployed on all the chains so that we can be almost like
Like a
there's
universal
a
remote.
yeah, yeah. Or do you think that these idea of being kind of having this cluster of different protocols serving similar features, almost like instead of having everybody has a Home Depot, there's a local hardware store in each one with different culture. Do you see a homogenization of protocols across chain, or do you see different chains establishing them credibility? And how does that affect your plan for Centric?
I think that will be a natural trend because, and I won't say that there won't be multiple chains because I think there always will be. Even Centric has a native blockchain in our roadmap.
Hmm.
But one of the things that I think is inevitable is compatibility. That
Hmm.
there's got to be a way for people to integrate no matter where they are, no matter where they tend to play, if you will,
Hmm.
in the Web3 space to integrate. I mean, I
Yeah.
was talking with a gentleman who's thinking about developing another DAO, and uh, they want to be able to have every type of cryptocurrency that's available, in the wild, to be able to integrate with the DAO. And of course, they'll have their DAO token, they'll have their ecosystem, but
Hmm.
um, I think there's got to be a way for everybody to work together, and I think there is. I think there's enough people in the space, and like you said, it's a very much a sharing space.
Hmm.
People want good protocols to win, and they want the space to win.
Yes.
And I think at the end of the day, there's going to be some type of compatibility.
Hmm.
But I don't like I said, it's a baby space. I agree with that too. I don't think that any development is going to be slowed down by compatibility. If
And I
anything, I
do
think it'll be
think that
supercharged.
the same way you can look at the United States has a federal government and federal law, but then states can experiment with different rules and
Correct.
policies. I think we're seeing that, but the
Yeah, I
best
think that's a
ideas
good
do
analogy.
propagate a little bit. So this
For
idea,
sure.
I'm not saying that there's a federal system, but there's definitely a kind of experimentation at the local level at the different chains, and then the consensus on like,
Right.
oh, this staking model worked really well, so most people end up emulating
Yeah,
something
as
similar.
people align
Yeah.
with the things that work, I think that there's going to be, like you said, consensus.
Yeah.
That's the C
You
word.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think this integration, especially around the user experience, is super important. A lot of our focus at Cardstack is on the front end. So about what the wallet experience, how do we leverage smart contract wallet type of technology to provide like account recovery and ability for you to have gasless transaction at the wallet level and interacting with the
Hmm.
protocol that you want to
Right.
participate in the community. So I think there's an opportunity to
That's
do
super
some of that.
valuable. That's
Yeah,
super
in the
valuable.
front end of that.
Yeah,
So from a perspective of like the protocol and its future, what do you think is the steps that you're taking to make sure that people learn more about your protocol, about Web3 in general, and know their role in the participating? What are some of the efforts that you put in place for that?
for sure. Well, our team is always looking to the future and thinking, okay, well, what number one, what do people need now? What do they want? And where does the white paper tell us that we're going?
Mm,
Because we, if we don't align with our white paper, there's, we can very easily get off the rails. But one of the things that we want to do is we want to make sure people understand Centric protocol. And one of the things we've deployed is a bi-monthly educational series.
mm,
It's a webinar series. It's every other Wednesday, And the Centric education series is free. It's basics top to bottom, how Centric protocol works. We show people how the wallet works. We do a demo of the wallet,
Mm-hmm.
our native wallet, and then we go out to an exchange and pick up some Centric. We bring it into the wallet. We show again, like, what's the power of converting from the traded token to the in-network token. Is the in-network token yields more Centric every single hour.
Mm-hmm.
And so we answer related questions, but one of the things we try to do is keep the doors open. And I think protocols that have a real solid Telegram presence and Discord presence and Twitter presence, and they're just accessible. I think being accessible is huge. I
Mm-hmm.
think when teams don't make themselves available to the community, it's hard to grow the community,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard to get that support.
Yeah, I think
But
the
yeah, that's the focus.
availability, accessibility, not accessibility only in terms of availability of the people, but also the language is really the part that's the ramp, right? Think about making an accessible ramp for wheelchair, which is another word in the
Yeah,
real world. Is
for
really
sure.
about having a gentle ramp, gentle on ramp.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Right.
think I think one
That's
of the
huge.
what's talking about on
That's why
ramps
the
like.
basics. I think the basics are super important.
Absolutely. And I think walking people in real time through the actual experience of doing the verse instead of a quick cut TikTok, right? I
Yeah.
think sometimes you want to say, hey, you're going too fast. How do I do this? Can you do it in real
Can
time?
you slow it
Like,
down, please?
yeah, can you click that button? I want to see what happens. How long am I supposed to be waiting? Is it 1 minute, 2 seconds, or like 3 minutes, right? So I think it's
Right.
really cool to think about that as like making it accessible in those way. Um,
Yeah.
the um,
That's a
the
focus for us for sure.
the the final question I have for you is, when you look at the degree of adoption within our space in terms of people who are already in the space, so like someone who's already invested in it, what do you think people already in Web3 can do to help with this education? Is it to
Hmm.
participate in the Telegram community, or is it to write blog posts? Like, what do you think is the most effective way for community member to contribute?
Right. I think we all have a responsibility to bring the truth to the masses. And how do
Mm-hmm.
we do that? We do it on a local level, and then we kind of
Right.
move from there. I mean, if you feel called to champion a Telegram group, or like you mentioned, have a 24/7 blog, then do it if you feel like you're supposed to do that. But I think any of us that are in the community, we have a responsibility to educate.
Mm-hmm.
I joined a members only group about 7 or 8 months ago, and it's not a Web3 group.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me. But don't we find each other, Chris? Don't we find the
Yes.
people that are kind of in the trenches, so to speak? And what we did is we started another series, very similar to what we're doing at Centric, but we're doing it for everybody. It's open to the
Yeah.
public, not even just to our membership,
Right.
and just answering people's questions. Because, like I said, I mean, there are so many people that have a lot of misunderstandings about Web3, and there's a lot of mythology out there because of the space that we're in and
Mm-hmm.
everything that it entails. But I think, like you said, walking people through it, the basics, can't be overstated that that's important. I mean, that even on my own YouTube channel, that's
Mm-hmm.
that's what it's about, is education
Yeah.
first. And do we answer people's questions? We do the best that we can.
Yeah.
And because people have very legitimate questions about,
Mm-hmm.
like, how does this work? How does this work? How do I know this is going to happen this way? Because we got track record.
Yeah. That
It's
makes
not
sense.
a long track record, just a few years. But I mean, think about just even the Bitcoin blockchain itself. I mean, it's it's hard to penetrate that, especially with more and more people basically having those scales lifted from their eyes every
Mm-hmm.
day.
Yeah.
They're learning more, and as
Yeah.
as people are hungry for learning about Web3, they're going to be getting deeper and deeper into it.
Yes.
And
And I,
I
and I
know I
think
know that
these.
happened with me.
Yeah, for sure. And I think these idea that, we, even for us for making the Web3 watch series and inviting industry practitioner to have a conversation. And again, honest conversation, not overly enthusiastic and not
Right,
overly cynical. I think you
for
can
sure.
find those extremes on Twitter on easily, right?
Now,
Mainstream.
it's hard not to do that sometimes.
uh, but like sensible things. We
Yeah.
hope that these material are not only useful, in this time and place, but also maybe as references for for people to come in. Hey, what were they thinking when they were starting out or when they were growing the network?
Right.
These are the type of things that, when people look at a Vitalik talk or blog post you wrote 3, 4 years
For
ago,
sure.
it brings authenticity and it
I
brings this
agree.
idea of history
Yeah, yeah,
and
and
the
I think that's.
mission that, right?
Oh no, I agree, Chris. I think that's huge. I think it's huge that,
Yeah.
I mean, like you brought up Vitalik, you can bring
Mhm.
up, even Charles
Yes.
Hoskinson is
Yes.
another one.
Yes.
Um, Richard Hart, like Richard or don't like Richard, he shoots from the hip and he tells you exactly what he believes.
Yes.
No holding back there.
Yeah. So
And I
this
think
is
the
a
more we do that, people like that. They
yeah.
like the honest approach.
Yeah, this revolution, if it becomes a revolution, maybe it's evolution. A revolution is definitely
Right.
documented, right?
For sure it is.
there's more.
Yeah.
There's more
Yeah.
conferences
It's on
and
the internet.
fireside
It's
chat.
there
Yeah, it's
forever.
forever,
It's
and
there
that's why
forever.
we say what we believe because we believe what we say will happen, and a lot of them
Right.
has, right? If you think about
True.
early Ethereum thing, I think I was one of the first person. I was at a conference in San Francisco in 2014 or maybe 13 on stage near Union Square in thing talking about Ethereum for the first time.
Wow.
And I said, hey, I believe in this technology. The virtual machine doesn't even exist at the
No, no, no.
time,
Of course not.
right? This was like a week after I met Vitalik and Joe Lubin and got it. And I was like, hey, I think
Wow.
this idea of tradable assets, which end up becoming NFT, was a big thing. So I was like, you can still find that. I'll add a link to the YouTube video on that.
Yeah,
But
please.
so it's good to be able to have a consistent continuation of this story, and hopefully, historian looking back at our decade, I think it's been a decade, maybe more.
Yeah,
Will
a little bit more,
yeah,
a little
yeah,
bit more.
we'll see this that while the journey is interesting, sometimes kind of rough seas, that the intent and the direction is clear. So
I
thank you
agree.
so much today
Of
for
course.
giving us your thoughts and enlightening us on the perspective you see of the journey towards mass adoption of Web3.
It's my pleasure, Chris.
Thank you very much for the community for spending time with us. We will do these fireside chats very often, and every week has been we've been to do that. And so, if you like this content, please subscribe to our podcast or our YouTube channel. Until next time, have a good day.